Good morning, and good morning. I tell you, the sun is out. Although it says it's supposed to rain, I'm ready for it. I like it when I have the rain comes down and waters the plants, and I won't have to. But I had to do some watering yesterday morning, but they need some more, so I'm hoping that'll be a good thing for them. How are you? What's going on? Did you have a couple of good days since I last was on, which was Monday? My day's been good. I started out pretty early. I have some major projects that I'm doing. Um, I just noticed my my little shopping bag keeper up there. Sorry, I usually don't have that kind of stuff up and hanging around. But anyway, I plan on having a good day, starting with you all. Hoping that the message I bring today will be a good one. Today, I wanted to talk about labels, and I was looking at labels yesterday when I was getting ready to prepare dinner, and all I kept saying is everything has labels on it, labels, labels, labels. And I think I'd done this word. I did this word maybe 3.5 years ago, probably when I was just starting out doing Are You Stuck on this, live feature. And it was always intriguing to me that labels are just they're things to talk about the ingredients, but sometimes we're labeled and we don't know the ingredients, but it's labeled. We're labeled, the foods we eat in jars may be labeled, the cans, the cars we drive all have labels. Everything has a label. And we have a tendency to remember things based on the label, but we don't always know what's the real makeup. Now, my car that I drive, I love my car. But if you ask me certain things about the car, I'm not going to know it. Now, of course, the dealer knows it and the maker knows it. They know all the, what I would call the finite details or the finer details. I don't necessarily know them. So I'm looking at, does it start up when I'm ready to go? Does it hold gas well? Does it stay in its lane? Does it have all what I call the bells and whistles that I needed to say that I'm a better driver? Because it gives me some assistance. Does it help me back up and all those kinds of things? That's what I wanted. But sometimes we're labeled and they don't know how we move. They don't know what we're all about, but yet and still we are labeled. And so label is something that can be good, it can be bad, or it can be indifferent. It can be neither good or bad. It may be neutralizing in terms of it's not posing a threat to anyone. But sometimes labels can be toxic. They can be like the words that this is how Are You Stuck started. I'll kind of give you a little background. Are You Stuck started because I just remember things from when I was young, and people would say things, or they would say things to other people that would absolutely get inside of me and make me hurt for myself or hurt for others. And I said, you know what, that has to be something that we can do. We can teach people other words to use, um, that the negative words don't have to come out. It doesn't say that you have to love everybody that you see. Okay, you know, but you have to look at, to me, I think we should examine our words before we say them, because once they're out, they can't be taken back. They can be apologized for, but they can't be taken back. So when we're labeling people, like with all those negative words that can come out, and you know what I'm talking about, the words that start with B, a word that starts with B, or whatever it is that they call people. And I remember when I was younger being called a cow, or a heifer, and those words would just, become what, not that I thought that I was, but I was sad that someone else thought that I was that. And I've always been a person that, even though we only had one dictionary, I was always in it looking at, well, what does that mean? But of course I knew what cow and heifer were because they were on McDonald's farm. So I knew those words, but it was like maybe some of the other words. And I would go home and I would ask my mother. And sometimes my mother, be honest, might have been using some of those words. Okay. We just grew up in an environment where people said what how they felt, and sometimes the summation may be a label that you were given. And I'm saying that maybe we can put the labels down and let them remain on cans and in jars, but not necessarily in our psyche, that we would be carrying stuff that someone called us things that were totally negative, totally against who we really were. And sometimes I feel that words are so caustic that we wear them and bear them for life. We always can be taken back to those moments when someone else comes along and mentions that word or calls us that word. You know, it becomes what they call a chilling effect. And a chilling effect means it can take you right back to where you were. You know, you can get into those feelings, that hurt, that frustration, that the thing that cannot be changed. Because once again, if the words come out, it's hard to take them back. You know, even when you apologize, people will always remember that you said it, that you said it. So let's get into this today. I didn't bring a poem because I thought the word was juicy enough and gave explanation enough that it really said a lot. So when we talk about a label, you know, we could talk about labels as basically, you know, a piece of paper that is affixed to a jar. It could be, you know, material, but it can also be something that comes out as in words. So when I talk about it as something that's a label, as on jars and cans and all those kinds of things, or tags on pillows, like remember that tag that said "Do not remove." Okay, how many people probably remove that tag? Say, look, it's a bug. I don't like it on my pillow. But anyway, it says that kind of label is a tag. Do we not tag people? Good morning, Joan. How are you? Good to see you in the space. Today our word is label, and sometimes we are labeled, but it says as if we were packaging. It says, but a label could be a tag, a ticket, a tab, a sticker, marker. It could be a docket, a chit. In military, when military members wanted to offer anything, I would always say, "Well, what's a chit?" And so finally, I learned that it meant for them, it meant leave of absence. So then it could be a marker, a flag, a stamp, a document, and documentation. That means things have been labeled, but it also can be used as a phrase, a name applied to a person or thing, which is what we're going to zero in on, especially one that is inaccurate or restrictive, meaning that it could be, you know, basically calling people names, you know. And I think, you know, this morning I was looking for an image which kind of, you know, was illustrating what it is that I was talking about, that the fact that people realize that they've been called things that they can't outgrow, outlive, you know, out feeling hurtful for, because to them it was such an offense that stayed with them. It stayed with them. So when we look at the word of just being labeled, it says it's a designation. Someone's designated you to be that, you know, and it says it's a denomination, a characterization, an identification. Like, you know, there's been things that people have said about everyone that once it got back to them, not only was it hurtful, but it was like, wow, how did they get there? How did they come up with that? But, you know, not everybody is nice. Not everyone. It says it also could be a tag that you've been given, the name, which is what I started with, the name calling. You know, it could be something written on your epitaph. I hope not. Could be a nickname that is given. Sometimes that may be it's funny or it's good. Like people call me Winnie or Doc. I'll answer to those. They're not derogatory. They are kind of friendly, kind. You know, they're kind in kind. It says it could be a title that they're giving you. It says it could be, you know, an appellation, excuse me, and it could be basically something that you are known by. People will remember you. I always remember at home, you know, we had people that, you know, they had a certain name for them, you know, could be Legs because they were tall. Or it could be, you know, like I had a girlfriend and privately, I don't think she knew it, but they called her Big Bird, you know, because she was like 6'1" in her in her stocking feet, 6'1". And then when she put the heels on, here she was, you know, 6'3", 6'2", or or probably 6'5", because she could wear some high heels. She was stately and beautiful. But she said, girl, I know they be calling me names, but she said, I'm gonna walk in it. See, some people, it doesn't matter what you say to them, it's really okay. It is fine with them. So when we move on in the word, and I ask you this morning, have you ever been called a name or given a title that is undeserving, unreasonable, certainly hurtful? Um, or if it's something that's good, that it's a good thing, it's something that cheers you up every time you hear it. Um, so when I look down the word of label, if it's used negatively, it could be a lie. It could be a lie. A lie is a false statement made with the, you know, deliberate intent to deceive, and it says it's intentional. It's an untruth. Good morning, Ardelia. How are you? Today our word is label, label, label. Oh, liable. Come on now. Come on now. That's good. Liable. And some people won't take liability. They just act like they didn't say it, and then they'll say it again and still never take any credit for delivering such, you know, what I would call a horrible label. But anyway, when we lie, it says basically we are being deceptive. There's a distortion to it. There's, you know, basically evasion. Um, it's a falsehood, you know, a lunatic. All right, I know lunatics when I know them. Okay, I love it. I love it. Liable lunatic. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I would say so. It also says it's fiction. You know, it's forgery. It could be a myth. You know, how many people have had stories made up about them, and they weren't the author of the story, but they were in the story. There's probably been a lot of biographies that have been written about what was supposed to be this person, but then they'll say that they had nothing to do with the writing. I think they had a couple of books out on Diana, and you just think about some of the things that people will go to discredit, or as the younger people say, give shade on, pass shade on. That's it. They want to get it out there and get paid for it. Good morning, Big Mo. How are you? Good to see you in the space. Today our word is label, and not just the labels on the cans. I'm talking about what sometimes we are labeled. We're giving things and words that really don't belong with us, but people will label us anyway. It says also, and I started out with lie, that sometimes that's what people begin with. And it says with the lie, it also is slander, it's a tale, it's misrepresentation. Come on now, misrepresenting. It could be a myth, perjury. How many people get on the stand and say that they saw something and that wasn't true? Well, you know, to me, that's their one little minute of recognition or whatever they want to call it, but they think that they're contributing to a side that may be paying them or giving them something that gives them more clout, and people will do that. Also, with the lie, it says it's a fable, a falsehood, it's a distraction. Because I've seen people lie, and I know that they're not true, and It was really to divert attention from the person that they were lying on. You know, it is what it is. That is our lives that we live. It says it also could be an invention, meaning they invented it. Never happened, and then somebody wrote libel, and they wrote libel here. Um, it, it's a vilification, it's a false story, and it could be a white lie. All of those things have more to do with, to me, their character than the one that they're depicting with the one word, or the words that they give other people as descriptions. I don't want to be described as the bad things or the things that are negative or the things that would draw people away from me, because I don't want to ever present myself that way to others. I don't name call. I'm not into it. I just find that it it separates people far apart, too far apart. When I move on in my word of labels, I have A, which is abilities. It attacks sometimes people's abilities. And abilities talks about the possession or means of skill to do something. It could be that they're attacking their talent, their skill, their proficiency in a particular area because they want the recognition, or they want someone else they know and love and care about to have that recognition. And so they will tear it down and take it away from, well, she can't do this, he can't do that. They don't have that skill. They don't have that ability. And so they want to remove whatever goodness the person might be doing in a particular area and leave it at that. Leave it at that. So the abilities talk about one's capabilities, capacity, potential, um, and it talks about their power. And power is funny to me because I think sometimes when power is seen from others as people being powerful, they look at it as, I some way have to pull that down. And I'm thinking, well, sometimes power is perceived and people are really there as a figurehead because there's some other puppeteering going on elsewhere that has that person there, and I've worked in situations like that where when I was in New York, there was clearly the one that really ran everything was the second person in charge. The top person read the newspaper all day and talked about what was going on in the local community. That was his job. He's paid extremely well, extremely. Okay. So sometimes you can't talk about abilities unless you realize that people are out there doing things to take away what it is that you can do, your abilities, and shed some darkness on it. And they have a tendency to show their expertise over someone else's, and how they would emphasize the fact that the other person cannot do. So, yes, abrasive, that's really good, Joan, and aggressive. And sometimes you work with people, live with people, know people, in church with people, because they're everywhere, in school with people who will see your abilities as being limited. Okay. And so they may label you as being, that's not the one that can do it. This person can do it, or I can do it. I can do it. And it's so funny. One of the things that I guess coming from a family of 10 that I learned is that my mother and father would not let any of us be better than the other. We just couldn't be. We were, he and she, they both seen us as being the same. Okay, now we may be able to pop up every now and then because we can do something a little bit better. Like my sister Shirley was a great cook. Me, they didn't really want to cook until I, was forced to. When you move in your own apartment, you're forced to. But I knew how to. It's just that I didn't become the one that was most proficient. And when I grew up, my mother did all of the cooking, and occasionally we were invited to join in. And my sister and I would just watch my mother. But guess what? The boys could cook as well. And my father was a cook. So therefore you understand that we were able to mirror that. So our abilities were enhanced. But I remember doing certain things and people would say, well, where did she learn that from? We learn what we learn, and we can learn to talk about other people, label them, cuss at them, call them names. We can put ourselves in those positions, and it doesn't always pay out. To me, I think it's just a horrible negative, horrible. When we also have when we're attacking someone's ability, we're looking at they mastered something that the person that's talking about them didn't do it. Maybe talking about their artistry, their caliber. It says sometimes we're talking about other people's accomplishments over ours. And so we pump us up and we basically take all the air out of what it is that they're doing. Once again, that labeling for me is just not a good thing. It's just not. When we move on in the word of labels, we talk about one's beliefs. I believe when you label something or people, there's a system behind that is your beliefs. You believe that you can get away with it. You believe that it will make a difference in your life if you take this position. I believe that sometimes we have to be loose enough to understand that we hear things here. We can adapt them. We can make them a part of what it is that we believe, or we can leave them where we heard them, right there on the floor. Branded. Ooh, that's a good label. That's good. Branded. Yes. And sometimes we are. Sometimes we are branded. But the belief says that it's basically labeled on us or others. And it says the beliefs are an acceptance that a statement is true or that something exists. And isn't that what we live in every day? We listen to the TV. We don't know if what we're hearing is true or false, but you know, based on maybe our background or the people that we hang with, socialize with, that may also say that it says something. It says something. So when we have this thing where and we're dealing with our beliefs, it says, what is our trust? What is our faith or our confidence in someone or something? And, to me, I always was just, captivated, but frightened for, the whole Jim Jones thing that went on, where this man was able to convince all these people of their beliefs in him being God. You know, that to me, and I remember reading everything about it and just saying, how could that be that someone could become so caustic in others' lives that they would actually lose their lives fooling with this particular individual? But we do that. Sometimes we become fanatical. We become involved in what's going on, and it really consumes us. It really consumes us. So the beliefs, that people have, it says makes them where they are looking at the reliance on what it is that they believe, that they're confident in it. There's a credence to it. They've formed an alliance with it. They find that they are freedom. They have freedom in it, even though there may be boundaries outside of it, but they find that there's freedom in it. And this is that they're free from doubt. They don't doubt it. No matter what, they hear it, they believe it. That's it. And it says they have optimism in it. There's hopefulness and there's hope. So to me, beliefs are good to me if they're positive, but I try to keep others out of, the zone that says, caution, beware, be nice, be a good person. Everyone has their beliefs and they can have them. No trouble with me, none. But when it interferes, interrupts, makes other people become depressed, frustrated, angry, um, and wanting to even end their lives. And that's, to me, when the labels have to stop. Those kind of things. My When I move on in my word of labels, my E is for existence. We exist in a world where we don't know where we would have been, had the world never existed and had us in it, you know. So we can never talk about what if, unless we've already gone back and thought about what if I didn't exist. But I don't need people to help me feel that my existence is wrong. And sometimes the labeling makes us feel that way. We understand, and existence is the fact of state of living or having objective reality, meaning I'm real when I'm talking with you, and I'm not talking about you. I don't want to even go there. And it says it's continual survival. So we're put in a position where we're trying to stay here and live, not bothering anybody, but live without the labels, without the negative labels. I can put it that way. But if somebody's a great singer, or somebody's a great writer, or they're, a great teacher, and they're all of those things that we can give them their accolades, do it. Do it. Um, Endangered. Okay, that's right. I believe sometimes we are endangered because we, especially things the pandemic, to me, put some people in a frenzy, panic, mood, that they were going to situate themselves to be reclusive, um, pulling away from society, and already maybe enhancing what was already going on. So you're right, Joan. I think sometimes we have to look at what, the endangerment, endangered possibilities could be. They're endless. They're endless. I have a neighbor around the corner from me. They don't know me. I just see them all the. I've only seen them in the maybe 8-10 years they've been living there. Is He occasionally comes out, and I remember when he first moved in, it was beautiful. Everything was well kept, beautiful garden, everything. But since the pandemic, I see there's stuff all outside, covered up. The entrance has gotten really, really small, to his house. There's stuff everywhere outside. Nothing is cut. The lawn is really high, and I worry about him. So I go by. I say, I hope he's all right, Lord. Hope he's all right, because I realize that there's probably somebody thinking, and labeling, well, what is going on with this person? And we have a tendency to label, but my thing when I go by is I'm always saying, I hope he's going to be all right. He waved to me last week, and I was glad to see him. I was. But he has chairs outside, but inside looks like it's whatever he has is too much for these chairs to be inside the house. So I don't know. But sometimes we have to look at our existence and how we listen, and we may be endangered. We move on in our word of labels. We talk about what we lean on or lean to. And we have a tendency in recent years to, and it's probably always been a part of life, is that you lean towards the king, you lean towards the queen, you lean towards the presidents and the popes and all the people of relevance. We would lean towards them. And they said in that leaning, we realize that we are either aligning with them, or we're positioning ourselves to either lean further in or eventually get ourselves together, and we may lean out. So logical is great. How logical are we? That's a good word. So my lean says be in or move into a sloping position, meaning we've moved in. And sometimes that's what happens when we're really into other people. We lean in, we're closer. So every word we know, every move we see, every move they make, we make, because we're a part of that. And it says a lean is also a deviation from anything being perpendicular. So we know that you're no longer standing straight, you're leaning towards individuals. And it says or things or whatever it is, and it says, and it's really a slant, an incline, a bend, a tilt, and I always think about them saying that certain people would genuflect to others. They would get down on their knees and they would pray for the person that they're standing before, as if they are the king and queen or God. Um, and sometimes we take that as being relevant, for others that are looking at it. They're saying, wow, that's really important. I've never really had anybody that I would really do that for, but maybe I need to consider it. So the lean is also a tip. It's a heel, meaning that you're not standing up, so you might be seeing people maybe seeing the back of your heels. It's a careen, and get this, it says it's a bias, meaning that we're biased about whatever it is that we are leaning towards. We become involved, engrossed, um, captured, swayed, is what it says, veered. So those are what we would look at when we're looking at that word. And then lastly, I'm on my last letter here coming up. I say we should turn to realizing the importance of being social. And sometimes being social takes a lot out of us. It says if the right labels are used, people are comfortable and they can be social. They are able to be among other people. They can communicate without argument. Everyone has an opinion. True? My opinion doesn't have to agree with your opinion, but it doesn't mean that I don't love you. It just means that we don't agree on that issue. I don't make it where it would be something that I would cast you out of my life just because. Now, if you called me names all the time, maybe I would. I probably would do that. I would do that, and I would also address you when you called me out of my name. I believe my upbringing was always into that, where when we were little, I remember the woman across the street from our house, her name was Josie. And Miss Josie and we were still respectful. She would always call us a bad word and tell us to get out the street. Well, in the portion of New York we lived in, we had sidewalks, but the real room was in the street. It wasn't on the sidewalk, so we was playing in the street. And I think we was playing like kickball or something. And she said, stop that. Get out that street. And she was yelling at us and carrying on. So, good morning, Maurice. I'm almost done with our word today. And I think you might have heard it, but yeah, because Big Mo. Our word today, of course, is labels, but she would always make us get out the street. And so she would tell us to get out the street, and my mother was there telling us, get back in the street. So my mother taught us that we needed to have a response to a negative. Sometimes she said the response to a negative would be that we walk away. Other times she thought that we needed to address it. And so my social behind, I address it most of the time. I said, well, that was unnecessary or whatever. So I will probably come back with some kind of retort to say, we need to understand the importance of allowing others to be who they are while I be who I am and be allowed that as well. So when we're social, we're going to be communal. We're going to look at the idea of everyone is a part of a community, big or small, and the community could be the community of people you work with, the community of people that you go to church with, the community of people that you do social activities with. And that doesn't mean that there's someone in there that may be hateful to you. that that's true. Nonetheless, what it says is that you're still making your best attempt every day to be social. And it also says that when you're social, you're looking at how you can be civil. Civil, meaning no cussing, no pushing, no angry words of any kind. You're okay. And then it also says that you're looking at being a part of the civic, doing your civic duty of making the community welcoming. And, I believe all communities should have a welcomeness to them. However, some communities are closed. I've had a couple of friends that said that they moved to certain areas and they were not welcome, you know. So it makes it possible that we must learn that labels hurt, labels stick, just like they do on the sides of cans and bottles and jars. They stick to us too. So when we leave a place after we've been shaken up with a bad label, we might be leaving with the labels that they gave us, and the labels may be negative. But I say, hold your head up, okay? Understand that you are your person, higher up than any label that anybody, any negative label anybody could ever give you. It's a label. Just remember that. It's not you. It's their label for you, okay? But listen, we're gonna have another good word on Friday. I can't believe the time is going so fast. Pretty soon we're gonna be at Christmas. Isn't that wild? Seems like I just got over Christmas. I'm telling you, that's why I keep a little Christmas savings so I won't have to be crazy all year. I save it. I save me a few dollars. So when Christmas comes, I'm ready. I am ready. But listen, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Remember the labels that you use for others and the label that you give yourself. In fact, every time they give you a label, counter that label, a negative label, counter that label with the label that you know you are. You can say, I come from a queen. I'm a queen. I'm a king. I'm whatever. But remember, it's yours. It's yours. Listen, you don't have to do anything else, but if you would just hit share, I would love it. I would absolutely love it. Share this video. Let people know that I do exist and that I'm out here using words to help us define who we are to each other as nice as we can be. And in the process, we learn some new words that can take us higher, that we can talk to kings and queens and popes, presidents, and then we can talk to the little kids down the street or in our house. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I'll see you on Friday with another word. Thank you from Are You Stuck? We may be stuck. All of us get there. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.